Namaste and welcome to this conversation, Srimati Mala Kapadia ji.
Namaste, Parna.
Thank you for Indica Courses. Would you like, ma'am, to give us just a general outline of your course which you offer through Indica Courses?
Sure. It's a long story. So before I tell you about the Indica course, let me very briefly tell you about my journey from psychology to Indian psychology, right? Because I graduated in Mumbai St. Xavier's College, psychology, as we had that 11 plus 4 structure that time. So only 2 years of Western psychology in graduation, but I was like, done. I never want to go back to Western psychology ever again because there was nothing Bharatiya in that, right? So no mention of India or India's contribution. And also lot of, I would say 98% was pathological psychology. And it's only now 10, 12 years that they have started talking about positive psychology, right? So somewhere they are admitting that we were on our journey to negative psychology. And me being a devotee of Sri Aurobindo and the mother from childhood, thanks to my Sanskrit teacher. So what happened is that I believed Sri Aurobindo that all life is yoga and yoga is psychology, right? So when you have read Sri Aurobindo and the mother, who don't talk separately about psychology, but they do talk a lot about psychology, right? And then I said, but this Western curriculum, Morgan and King, which even today they are teaching the whichever edition. So 1979 is when I said no psychology for me. And I took a path to Gujarati Sahitya because I was already a poetess and did my MA PhD in Gujarati Sahitya. Aparna, trust me, Sahitya taught me much more psychology, where I studied, Manasa Shastra. And when you read poems and literature, it taught me much more psychology than what the, curriculum in a formal education teaches you. But my journey, my quest for who I am continued, and how do we all, as humanity, lead a better life, healthier life, happier life, right? It's ultimate goal for 4 Purushartha to reach moksha. How do you have a better path? So my quest for psychology continued, where I did my diploma from Tilak Maharashtra Vidyapith in Ayurveda and Yoga. And then I realized that, oh my God, there is so much literature about psychology, though it is not, titled as psychology, but in Ayurveda, we truly understand what is manas. And Ayurveda being a Upaveda of Atharva Veda, you go back, right? So I started reading Atharva Veda and realized that, oh my God, Atharva Veda is called Atma Veda, Brahma Veda. So it's all about what today's language they call meta-knowledge, metacognition. And that's where I started making my own notes on what can be a Bharatiya Manasa Shastra. And that's where Dimple from Indica connected with me and said, Malaji, why don't you offer this as a course? Right. So that's how the course came into being, where I have included majority from the field of Ayurveda. But Ayurveda comes from Sankhya. So, of course, Sankhya is there, Darshana. And I've connected the modern research of neuropsychology, psychoneuroimmunology, condensed PERT, who comes very close to yoga and Ayurveda. I've, of course, included Abraham Maslow, Carl Jung. I've included David R. Hawkins from the Malden work. But mainly Natya Shastra and Ayurveda as a base for Indic psychology. And I think we are still, a lot of work is available from Bhagavad Gita or some from Mahabharata, some from Itihasa Purana. But we have not dedicated, one full stream of Bharatiya psychology.
Should we then not use the word, Western word psychology? Because does it actually do a disservice by, we're not talking about only the psyche. We're talking so much more about everything together.
Absolutely. To be honest, the psychology word has shastra, right? Logy of psyche. Psyche is soul. But they have no idea what a soul is. Forget about soul. They have no idea what manas is. And they are only stuck with behavior. Now, if you look at an iceberg model, only the tip of iceberg is visible. Majority is invisible, right?
Right. Yeah.
And therefore, what Western psychology deals with is only the tip, which is behavior. But what is subconscious manas? What is unconscious manas? Or how you go deeper to the consciousness? They are still struggling. Because for them, brain is everything. So even the science of consciousness, they connect it only with what part in your brain shines up, right? But brain, brain is such a limited part of our existence.
So, do our texts make this difference between the brain and the mind?
Oh, yes, they do. They do. I'm not going back to Upanishad or Ved, but even if I look at more recent work of Charak Samhita, the beauty is, Aparna, our rishis were scientists, but they were also poets, right? So they use very poetic language. So a brain is called a heart, Hradaya. So Shiro Hradaya, Uro Hradaya, which is the heart, and Nabhi Hradaya, which is the gut. It's only in 2003 or 4 I was invited for a conference in US, Orlando, on emotional intelligence, where I presented on Patanjali Yoga Sutras and emotional intelligence, where one author, I think Robert Cooper, he talked about 3 brains, head, heart, and gut. And I was the only one in the audience of 1,000 people to say, oh, but India, we know it. In Charak Samhita, there is a reference, there is a mention of Shiro Hraday, Uro Hraday, and Nabhi Hraday. But so Hraday and Mastishka, right? I would say all our rishis have written in codes. All the sutras are like codes. Unfortunately, what has happened, we have lost the art of decoding. A lot of people don't know Sanskrit, they don't understand Sanskrit, so they only read the Tika or commentary by someone else, right? They don't go to the original sutra. And therefore, where is manas? What is manas? They find it very difficult. What is the relationship between manas and mastishka, manas and hraday, right? And this is where I realized that in psychoneuroimmunology, condensed spurt comes very close to what we say that manas is in every anu. In every cell, there is a manas. And this is exactly what she rediscovered, you know.
So, ma'am, in your course, what is the intention? Is it awareness? Is it as a tool to self-evaluate and self-cure? Or is it also for people, practitioners, to use Indian psychology in their own practice? Can all 3 be served by this course?
Sure, all 3 were served. In fact, we had 70 plus in the cohort, the first course. And we actually decided also that we'll go on for an advanced course, calling this a basic course. But it begins with awareness, right? Awareness of what is Bharatiya Manasa Shastra. Because we have never heard this, right? So what all comes into it? When you look at below iceberg, when you look at manas, what is manas made up of? What are sanskara? Because this is a huge gap. Because sanskara is not even understood by the Western psychologists. And they play a deep role, a huge role.
Could you just explain it briefly for our...
Sure. We all in Bharat, I think sanskar is a part of our life, right? Everyday life, everyday vocabulary. So we don't even pay attention to the word. But in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, it says that Yama and Niyama and the entire Ashtanga Yoga is for Punaha Sanskara. So sanskar are the deep imprints of our own experiences from past birth, which means we who are born in Bharata and believe in the our shastras believe in rebirth without doubting it. We don't need to wait like, who's that author? Many Lives, Many Masters. I'll get the name and I'll talk about him. But he wrote Many Lives, Many Masters. When he discovered that, oh, my patient is able to go in past life into another life, and then he took 25 years to have this confidence to talk about it. Because in the Western world, you'll be labeled as a pseudo-scientist if you talk about it. While we as Indians, we accept rebirth. So whatever my past memories, these memories become imprint in my manas, and through my manas, even in my body. And they create a repetitive cycle of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Now, unless I understand this, I will not be able to either understand my behavior, how to come out of that cycle, right? How to reorganize the pattern. Because all the Western world of reorganizing pattern is happening cognitively, limiting it to the brain, while I have to include my full body. I'll give you a very simple example. Even if somebody has amputated the leg, right? The Western world accepts that, oh, they still feel the pain, though the leg is cut out, right? We understand very easily because we believe that there is a Sthula Sharira and there is a Sukshma Sharira. So when we accept that there is a Sukshma Sharira, we realize that the Sukshma Sharira is attached with our body. And therefore, we experience the pain in a body part which doesn't even exist. So the Annamay Kosha, Pranamay Kosha, Manomay Kosha, Vigyanmay Kosha, Anandamay Kosha, that we include as a part of psychology. So there is, of course, awareness, understanding that these are different streams. Unfortunately, what has happened because of NEP, I attend a lot of meetings where they say, oh, how do we integrate IKS in the mainstream? I would say we need not integrate. Let them be parallel, like a train path, railway tracks. Let them exist parallelly and let them naturally, organically meet where they are able to meet. Because our own Jivan Drashti is different. So awareness, worldview, awareness creates metacognition. Metacognition creates worldview, understanding my own worldview. How do I look at the world? Then how do I look at myself? Because all our Shastra, and that is the basis of our Manasa Shastra, that I'm interconnected. Right? I'm interconnected with everything. Yat Pinde Tat Brahmande. Me and the entire cosmos are one and the same. So how do you experience it? So my entire Indica course was also very experiential. There was a part of theory, but then there were, experiential exercises. And it was once a week. So they had one full week to observe themselves. Shravana, Manana, Nidhi, Dhyasa, right? So they have to experience, introspect, self-observe, observe others. And then we reconnect the next week.
In some cases, like today, for instance, if you have a psychological or a mental health issue, the therapist and the psychiatrist work together. So there are two solutions. One is the medicine, and one is, like you mentioned, CBT. So in our sciences, do we have this distinction between modifying our actions, which can help, and an Ayurvedic solution where some form of medicine or healing happens? Is it also twofold, or how does it work?
Sure. In fact, I would say it is threefold, right? So in Ayurveda, of course, there is a Sadavritta and Achar Rasayan. So there is a lot of emphasis on how you live life. So I have to live life in a very positive way. And once I understand the interconnectedness, it's very easy to be optimistic, positive. The ahar, food I eat, right? Vihar, exercises. When do I exercise? How much exercise I do, right? Sleep. Because nidra is a major part of treatment. Today we realize that one of the mental health issue is lack of sleep or lack of good quality sleep. So Ayurveda helps us through dinacharya and ritacharya live a healthy life. Also, there are medhya rasayana. So there are medicines which improve your medha, which is your intelligence, right? And that can be given to children, in their growing up years. There is also something called Swarna Prashan, which can be given to babies till the age of 12, right? So every Pushya Nakshatra, you give babies Swarna Prashan, medicine made out of gold, which actually improves their physical health and emotional health, mental health. In fact, there is one Dr. Hitesh Jani in Gujarat. He has done a lot of experimentation and collected data how children have done very good in sports, in studies, how their IQs have gone up and they have less mental health issues, right? We need to do more of such research. So that is one part, which is a proactive part. Second part, as you said, parallel to CBT, and one of my session was entirely on that, on Sattva Vajaya. There is psychotherapy and counseling in Ayurveda. They have actually given out, literature and step-by-step processes. How do you do it? Unfortunately, very few Vaidyas practice it as a separate branch. They may integrate it in their practice. So most of the Vaidyas do counseling without even calling it counseling, right? But counseling in Ayurveda is a specialization. And then there is, of course, Manasa Roga. So maybe you are going through depression, maybe you are going through insomnia or unmada, anything else, epilepsy. Then there is a therapy which also includes counseling and medicine. So, and treatment, not just medicine, but there are different treatments of Panchakarma through which your mind and body is purified.
So
And
there is
in Ayurveda, one of the parallel that I've given in my Indica course is Sattva Vajai Chikitsa. It's only one part of Ayurvedic psychotherapy, where how do you increase your Sattva? Because Ayurveda truly believes that all Manas Roga, mental health as they call it, come out of vitiated Rajas and Tamas. And in today, our lifestyle is very little Sattva, but a lot of Rajas and Tamas. We are literally living between them. And therefore, how do you balance that? Have more Sattva? And how do you live a lifestyle which is creating Hita, which increases my Sattva?
Could you give us a few tips on how to increase Sattva? I know this is not like, quick fix, but just
I know it's not, but it's very important. And that is the reason at the moment I'm working on my IKS project through IKS division, Ministry of Education, on Hita and Sukha Ayu. Because, what has happened is Bhutan's happiness survey really took the world by storm, right? It's been more than 12 years now that such a tiny country has been able to impact the shift, However, the Western world is still not able to grasp the spiritual aspect of well-being and happiness, which Bhutan has. But, unfortunately, they have taken very superficial aspects from the Bhutan survey. However, if I want to give you few tips, and this is what my entire survey and framework on Hita, Ayu, Sukha is about, I need to first of all have awareness. And post-awareness, I need to be self-transformative. See, I know so many clinical psychologists who practice only the Western psychology, go to counselors or psychologists themselves, because they are not healthy themselves. Now imagine, how can a blind person show direction to another blind person? While in Ayurveda, the moment I'm practicing Sattva Vajaya, then only I have the adhikara to give you any tips on how to increase Sattva, right? Because if my own Sattva is less, I will not be authentic, right, in whatever I share with you. So this is a major difference between Western psychology and Bharatiya psychology, where even the Vaidyas are very clearly told what kind of lifestyle they need to have, what kind of mind they need to have when they look at a patient. Vaidyas were supposed to do their own sadhana. Vaidyas were supposed to follow a lifestyle which is very pure, constant Atma Shuddhi, right? And this is where Ayurveda begins with Dinacharya. How does my day begin? And ends with Ratricharya. So a simple tip for increasing sattva is Brahma Muhurate Uttishtha. Wake up before the sun. Now, if I understand why should I wake up before the sun, then it's easy for me to, even wake up without an alarm. Because I understand that the sun outside and the Agni within my body are connected. Right? Agni is a major part of our health because Agni creates the metabolism. Agni transforms the food into nutrition. Right? Agni also purifies my thoughts. Isn't it? So, unfortunately, most people today are suffering from either Manda Agni or Tikshna Agni. Their Agni is not balanced. So if I want to keep my Agni balanced, I have to wake up before the sun. I have to be ready to welcome the sun. So there is so much positive energy in the air in Brahma Muhurata, right? And if the moment we realize this, it's very easy to wake up at Brahma Muhurata. Then of course, what lifestyle I follow. Unfortunately, today you would realize that a lot of youth, whether they are college youth or working professionals, go to gym in the evening. Because in the morning they have either their colleges or they go for work. They don't realize how it affects their health because Ayurveda says exercise has to be in the morning. Right? You need to eat with the rising sun. So between 10 and 12, you need to have your lunch. We never had breakfast in Ayurveda. Eating breakfast like a king is a Western concept. But eating proper meal between 10 and 12 will keep your Agni in the right way. And then when the sun sets, with the sunset, you need to start withdrawing from the outer world. And this is so beautifully explained poetically, but we don't understand the science because it's poetry. Hriday Kamala, right? They call heart as a Kamala. Now, anyone who understands either biomimicry in science, or if they are connected with nature and if they have observed a lotus flower, they will know that it blooms with the sun and it closes when the sun sets. Right? Now, imagine our heart. If heart is a Kamala, it starts blooming with sunrise and it wants to withdraw from the outside world at the sunset. That's a biological rhythm that we need to follow for healthy life and having sattva in life. Unfortunately, what do? This is the time when people have a lot of meetings or they are traveling, they are driving in a traffic area, they are getting into a, very rushed metros, right? Or they go to gym and do rigorous exercise. Now the heart is not happy. Heart wants to withdraw and relax. And we are exerting the heart. Obviously, the problems start happening because you are having your dinner late. You're not having it before sunset. Then you are not sleeping at the right time. You are listening to television and all the negative news in the world before sleeping. So it affects your sleep. So everything increases rajas, which ends up in tamas. And therefore the sattva takes a back seat. So understanding the dinacharya, our connection with the sun is the first step to increase sattva in our life.
So how has your life been transformed by studying Indian psychology? How has your family life benefited? How does our One is the sheer beauty of the science, to be intellectually and personally attracted to it as a science, as an art, as a form of medicine and a lifestyle. But does it also what is a kind of transformation that happens on a personal level?
A lot of transformation happens, Aparna. I tell many people that I really wish I had all the videos from the moment I was born and how I lived my life. How
Mm.
many illnesses, are literally a roller coaster of illnesses that I've gone through in my life.
Mm.
And at 65, if I'm sitting like this in such a beautiful environment, it's thanks to Ayurveda, yoga, my gurus, and Devi, of course, right? Because she's the one who guides you to the right path. I had a very stressful life till 2001 because of the corporate life. You understand, right? I mean, we all get sucked into that. And living in Bombay, long distance travel, long hours at workplace, and toxic workplace, right? Because this is what Ayurveda taught me, that toxic places, whether it's at work or at home, they reduce your ojasa. And if ojasa is reduced, your immunity goes down. So obviously, I was at the very lowest end of my immunity in 2001. And then I took my first Panchakarma treatment. I went to a Lotus Trust in Mumbai, which had an OPD. So though it was not the best way to do my Ayurveda treatment, but I immensely benefited, And we don't realize, but at a cellular level, we get transformed when all the armor, that's why the word for health is Niramaya, right? Without armor. Armor is toxicity, that we collect in the body. And then every 2 years, or if possible, every year, I started searching for a good Ayurveda place where I can go enroll myself. The way we do servicing of our cars. Or now Deepavali is coming, we do Deepavali cleaning at home, right? The same way we need to do cleaning and servicing of our body and mind. And I continued doing that. So naturally my illness is reduced, my energy increased. And therefore the creativity increases. Some of the best ideas I've had on my therapy table, I'm getting my Abhyanga done. And it's literally happened that I had to go and present in a conference on permaculture leadership. So I said, okay, permaculture leadership, and how do I connect with something Bharatiya? And then on a therapy table, I'm getting these, download of ideas that, connect it with Loka Sangraha in Bhagavad Gita. So then I started reading more on Loka Sangraha, the papers, academic papers, and looked at permaculture, and I was able to beautifully create a paper. So even our professional creativity increases.
Thank you so much.
And naturally, then the family is also healthier and happier, right? Because if the woman in the house is healthy and happy, the entire ecosystem benefits. My son is in New Zealand. And I feel very happy when he calls me up and says, okay, I had fever last night. Don't worry, I've taken Kalmegha, Kashayam. But what should I eat or drink? Or, should I fast? So he has been observing me, right? Or he has been growing up with Ayurveda as a part of his life.
Fantastic. So on a final note, being a poet yourself and being interested in poetry, what is the kind of poetry that you find? Of course, we have Sri Aurobindo's beautiful work, Savitri. But what is it that personally moves you the most?
See, personally, to be honest, the beauty or the wonder of life. In fact, I was in 8th standard, a very young, my teenage would have just started, right? And I wrote my first poem on death. But it was in a very positive way, not a negative poetry. And I didn't even know that my mother gave it to one magazine and it got published in one of the Gujarati digest, Navneet, at that time. So death has been intriguing me, and life, of course, because life and death is a continuity. A lot of nature, some loneliness, because what happens is when you are on a spiritual path, though there is everyone around you, right, and everyone is loving and affectionate, But there is some akasha in you which makes you lonely, right? So some loneliness poetry. And then, of course, a lot of poetry on nature.
Thank you so much for this lovely interaction. And it's, I think a lot of people would benefit from doing the course and from hearing your views, which is both like very relevant and necessary today. And the best of psychology of both worlds.
Absolutely. And that's the reason now I'm designing 2-3 courses. From the first course, a little demand came up, right?
Mm.
So I'm designing a course specifically for psychology professionals. They can be counselors, psychologists, or psychiatrists. But how can they, I mean, again, integration is a wrong word, but what can they learn from Sattva and other psychotherapy part in Bharatiya Manasa Shastra? And how can they have both as a part of their, therapy or treatment or consultation? Second is for teachers, because I do feel that whichever subject you are teaching in school, college, wherever, but need to understand yourself and understand your learners, right? What is my teaching style? What is their learning style? How does learning happen? There is so much in-depth wisdom on this. Recently, I was at, of course, Indica conference only, Ancient Indian Pedagogy at Ujjain, Sahana ji and Nagaraj Paturi ji. And we had such beautiful papers. So another branch on education psychology, child psychology. We can actually parallelly come up with a lot of sub-themes as a part of Bharatiya psychology.
Yeah. Wonderful. We hope to see more of your work and to learn more from you.
Dhanyavad.
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 Have a good day.